Die Bauernproteste haben begonnen und bundesweit droht Chaos auf den Straßen und den Autobahnen.
Farmers across Germany have begun a week-long strike.
Farmers are protesting across the country. They're choking up roads.
Germany is going through a very difficult period as a country.
Thousands of farmers.
At the beginning of December, the German government, in order to save the state budget for 2024, introduced a number of cuts, including subsidies for farmers. This caused a huge wave of outrage that spread throughout the country. On Monday, January 8th, the announced road and highway blockades began in Germany. The media talks about paralysis.
Dass die Bundesregierung eine Steuererhöhung einseitig gegen die einzige Branche, die weitgehend klimaneutral arbeitet, nämlich die Landwirtschaft, wir nutzen ja die Sonnenenergie hauptsächlich, verkauft als Abbau von klimaschädlichen Subventionen. Also das ist so abgrundverloren.
The protests stopped production in many companies, including one of Volkswagen's plants. In Munich alone, according to Deutsche Welle, the police reported that they accompanied about 5,500 tractors from nearby villages, which moved towards the city and later reached the center of the Bavarian capital. Authorities in the state of Brandenburg reported that protesting farmers blocked entire cities, including Brandenburg on the Havel and Cottbus. Meanwhile, police in Rhineland-Palatinate reported an 18 to 20-kilometer convoy of more than 1,000 tractors and trucks traveling on the highway towards the state capital, Mainz. Some roads in Germany are impassable, and the country is literally paralyzed. Berlin has no intention of withdrawing from its plans because, as Olaf Scholz claims, the situation in Germany is really bad, and only drastic steps can protect the economy, which is becoming more and more indebted. By the way, I have recently created a number of materials for you about the bad condition of the German economy. To learn the origins of what is happening, I would like to refer you to them. Something is also happening on the German internet, as Federal Minister of Economy Robert Habeck says. Calls for coup fantasies are circulating, extremist groups are being formed, and ethnic nationalist symbols are openly displayed.
Es kursieren Aufrufe mit Umsturzfantasien, extremistische Gruppen formieren sich, völkisch-nationalistische Symbole werden offen gezeigt. Es wird sichtbar, dass in den letzten Jahren etwas ins Rutschen geraten ist, was den legitimen demokratischen Protest und die freie Meinungsäußerung entgrenzt, sodass nun auch zuvor Unsagbares legitimiert erscheint.
The destruction of the German economy is deepening. More and more Germans are fed up with the current situation in the country. Let's remember that this is happening at a time when there is not even a crisis. That's why today I will check for you what is happening in Germany and why these are one of the largest protests in the modern history of this country. I invite you to watch. The problems in Germany have accumulated over the years, and what is currently happening takes us to extremes, but one by one. Widespread labor market reforms in the late 1990s and subsequent rapid growth in demand in China and emerging markets created millions of jobs and fueled strong economic growth in Germany for more than 2 decades. But now the country's famous economic model appears to be crumbling. The IMF predicts that Germany will be the only G7 economy to contract in 2023. The current deterioration in global economic conditions has also revealed long-term problems affecting the country's economic efficiency. Economists point to Germany's rapidly aging society, lack of recent large investments in infrastructure, and high corporate income tax rates. In 2024, production is expected to decline by 0.5%.
Wir stehen kurz vor einer Staatskrise, es sind Milliarden.
Wir kommen zurück nach Deutschland, denn Nele, wir müssen es ja so formulieren, es sind denkwürdige Tage und Wochen. Noch nie hat eine Bundesregierung ja vor einem so finanziellen Desaster gestanden. Milliarden verpuffen einfach.
Als das einzige Industrieland auf der Welt befindet sich Deutschland im Jahr 2023 in der Rezession. Und das hat etwas mit der deutschen Wirtschaftspolitik zu tun.
Longer-term risks include Chinese competition in the electric car market and the costs of achieving net zero emissions, higher in Germany due to its huge energy-intensive industrial base and rejection of nuclear power. In short, the Berlin authorities did literally everything to make the public mood the worst in the entire 21st century. Halfway through the 4-year term of the current government, as many as 82% of German voters are less than satisfied or not at all satisfied with the results of Olaf Scholz's coalition consisting of the center-left SPD, the Greens, and the neoliberal FDP. Almost every industry in Germany is experiencing problems after the coronavirus pandemic, the emergence of the war in Ukraine, and related problems also directly affects the German economy, which is bombarded with bad economic information from almost every side.
I think the path Germany is on is a difficult one. It's a risky one. The problem is, I think, the people, the Germans, believed in this energy transition at the outset of this current government. And I think people have lost a bit the belief in it.
After last year's European Commission recommendation to start formal accession talks with Ukraine, Joachim Rückwied, president of the German Farmers Association, or DBV, warned of the consequences for the agricultural sector. As he himself stated, and I will quote now, "Accession would lead to the collapse of family farming in Europe," end of quote. These words were spoken precisely on Wednesday, November 15th, at a press conference on the future of the EU's common agricultural policy. Rückwied drew attention to Ukraine's large agricultural sector and the fact that the average farm in this country is many times larger than in the EU, on average even 8 times larger. Adoption would therefore mean, and I quote again, inclusion into the EU of an agricultural sector with a completely different structure, up to farms of several 100,000 hectares, end of quote. German farmers experienced the same problem as Poles. Purchasing prices dropped significantly. And all this was caused by a huge inflow of agricultural products from beyond the eastern border of the EU, specifically, of course, from Ukraine. The current nationwide protest is partly the result of these events, but the bitterness was broken by the restrictions on reliefs, including fuel and tax exemptions for the agricultural sector.
Und diese Kampfansage nehmen wir an. Das ist hier heute nur der Auftakt. Das ist die Botschaft an die Bundesregierung. Und wir sind nicht nur hier in Berlin. Wir sind auch heute schon vor Ort mit vielen Traktoren. Und wenn die Bundesregierung diese unzumutbaren Vorschläge, und ich meine den Vorschlag zur Besteuerung unserer Fahrzeuge und den Vorschlag zum Agrardiesel, nicht zurücknimmt, werden wir ab 8. Januar dafür sorgen, egal ob es Winter ist oder nicht, dass es einen sehr heißen Januar geben wird.
Already in mid-December, farmers entered the German capital, protesting against the actions of Olaf Scholz's government. At that time, about 1,500 tractors came to Berlin. The German authorities decided to make cuts due to the need to save the budget, which looks really bad, because this year, due to wrong decisions on transferring money from the COVID fund to the energy transformation, an additional gap of as much as EUR 60 billion was created. At this point, the German authorities had several options. For example, to raise taxes or take out a larger loan, which is not entirely possible due to the so-called debt brake. Therefore, neither one nor the other option could come to fruition, because due to high interest rates and economic problems, increasing the tax could lead to the collapse of many German industrial plants, which are already in a really difficult situation. Berlin, headed by Olaf Scholz, decided to cut subsidies and liquidate some economic plans that were unprofitable for the country. And this is how we get to the point where we are now. German farmers protest against subsidy cuts. Transporters oppose increases in truck fees.
4% Flächenstilllegung, Düngeverordnung und so weiter. Die Bürokratie wird immer größer und wir müssen einfach was dagegen tun, dass die Politik endlich begreift, dass wir am Limit sind.
Also Agrardieselvergütung und die Steuern würden bei uns jährlich etwa 60.000 Euro ausmachen.
Die Luft ist raus, die Motivation ist weg und wir beschäftigen uns eigentlich mehr und mehr mit dem Gedanken, den Betrieb aufzugeben, als weiterzuführen. Wir sind keine Nazis, wir sind keine Randalierer, wir sind einfach Unternehmer, die massive Sorgen haben um ihre Zukunft.
In turn, from Wednesday, January 10th to Friday, January 12th, there will be a strike over wages, decided by the German Drivers' Union. As a result, many trains have not started, or there are serious delays on the routes. Deutsche Bahn even urged passengers to postpone their journeys if possible. Even before this strike, Tagesschau drew attention to this fact, and I will quote now, "The train drivers' strike will affect millions of passengers. All these protests attracted significant attention, supported by opposition conservatives and the far-right Alternative for Germany, or AfD, party. The situation escalated when Swedish activist Peter Emanuelsson asked Elon Musk on the X platform if he supported farmers. Musk simply replied, yes. This statement further inflamed the mood and worried the government in Berlin. It is also worth paying attention to the data provided by the Die Welt Daily in 2023. In total, almost 270,000 Germans emigrated from the country last year. Switzerland remains the main destination country, followed by Austria and the USA. The funniest thing is that Poland is also in the top 10 countries to which Germans emigrate. In 2022, approximately 1.2 million people left Germany. However, most of them are not German citizens, so most of them probably returned to their old homeland. Nevertheless, 268,167 native Germans also emigrated, as the portal notes. Qualified workers are returning to their homes. As a result, German entrepreneurs are looking for literally every educated person, sometimes offering truly prohibitive rates, so that their business can continue to develop in these conditions or, in a worse case, simply survive. The data provided by the German Deutsche Welle may also be disturbing. Energy consumption in Germany in 2023 is the lowest since unification, according to the latest estimates. These data show how much the industry in our Western neighbor is slowing down. Decreases in production have been recorded, especially energy-intensive industries, which had a noticeable impact on energy consumption. The British The Economist writes that the German automotive industry today seems to have an unchallengeable position. The European leader produced 3.67 million cars last year, nearly a quarter of the approximately 16 million that rolled off the production lines of European factories. You can look at this data from a different perspective. From the European perspective, Germany seems to be a hegemon, but when it comes to global production, it is certainly not it. The leader in global production, numbering 85 million pieces, is of course China. The Middle Kingdom produced approximately 27 million cars in 2022. However, 3/4 of German cars are manufactured outside Germany.
Any market they enter outside of China is going to be easier than the Chinese market for them right now.
A lot of Chinese really thought that's their own car because Volkswagen was so dominant at the beginning, especially at the beginning of the economic rise. And of course, this was a big advantage until recently. Volkswagen had the biggest share on the Chinese market.
Western automakers, Western executives were consistently surprised that this policy was moving forward. And they felt that this was, they didn't feel this was realistic. And I think they were consistently surprised that Chinese automakers did take this seriously and put in the R&D and succeed.
The industry employs millions of people and is currently on the verge of collapse, the best example of which is staff reductions, for example, in Volkswagen. The blockade of key highways in early January will have dire consequences for the already struggling economy. And solving this problem is really just putting a band-aid on a festering wound. All macroeconomic indicators point to a huge problem in the economic heart of Europe. If a series of unfortunate events occur, an economic crisis across the continent is not an abstract vision. Many Germans are dissatisfied with their lives and vent about what is happening on their social media profiles. This, in turn, strengthens the polls of the radical AfD and other extreme organizations in Germany, which, by radicalizing an increasing part of society, may ultimately lead to nationwide riots, which Berlin fears the most. The large protest in Germany at the beginning of January seems to be only the beginning of what we can observe in the following months, although perhaps the Germans will manage to find some golden mean to solve this problem. Wherever we are not, it's good. I leave you with this motto. That's all for today. Take care and thanks for your attention. Bye.